Let's get to Kimberly Lowe joining us now live. Kimberly Lowe is running for House of Delegates as a Republican, trying to get the nomination for 2021 in the Suffolk area. Kimberly, great to have you with us.
Hey, good morning. I have lots of great information. I was at the convention, and we have Republicans in the 5th District who have put up a candidate that has missed their deadline to be on the ballot. The NRP wants nothing to do with him because his views are so extreme, because he's homophobic and xenophobic. He only has $34,000 in his account to run, when the Democrat that's leading right now has $286,000 and has raised almost $1 million. And what's really worrisome, okay, number one, it was completely rigged. Number two, there are lots of voting discrepancies. The voting results are not matching how voters said they would vote. And these are people that were being contacted by the Riggleman campaign for 3 months. So either the people lied to the Riggleman campaign or Bob's team cheated. And wait, there was so much fraud. There's video evidence of delegates being added to the list that day, delegates handing in multiple ballots, and there was an entire box of fake ballots found. And there were voting discrepancies, but before they showed up at convention, they voted to make sure that they could decide on their own. This committee, which has paid Bob Good campaign people on the committee, they voted that they could decide how things were going to go. So it didn't matter that, hey, something's really wrong here. We have a lot of ballots that don't match up with the number of people that said that they were coming. These were people that Riggleman's campaign would not have been able to contact to say, hey, how are you going to vote? And they made the decision that, well, we're just going to go with these results. But the results were extremely, extremely skewed. Also concerning, there were not ballot boxes everywhere. And there were Bob Good volunteers and Bob Good volunteer shirts everywhere. According to the rules, they're not supposed to be wearing Bob Good shirts. And Bob Good volunteers with no oversight and Bob Good supporting chairmen were taking ballots by hand from people in cars and not placing them in ballot boxes. You can't tell me that isn't voter intimidation. So people, how intimidating. Let's say you upset your chairman, and they're going to know how you're going to vote. There was so much going on that was so wrong.
Yeah, look, there's no question, Kimberly. The whole thing was corrupt and rigged and stolen by Chris and Diana Shores, the new Bonnie and Clyde of Virginia convention politics. This is the second one they did. They rigged Chris Peace out of his seat in New Kent. So this is what they do. They're professionals at it. They are the best at stealing nominations and rigging conventions. And that's how they make a living. They're that good at it. So, but to sit here and say now that, there's ballot discrepancies, of course there are discrepancies. But here's the problem. You got smoked. We lost 58-42. If it was 51-49, 52-48, 50.8, 49.2, you got an argument. He got crushed. It's not even close. He got beat by 16 points. 16 points. You can't steal that many ballots on Election Day. And as far as Denver's people IDing them, Bob Good said from the beginning, Chris and Diana Shore said they had 60% of the delegates. They got 58.5%. So that was consistent with what they were saying from the beginning. The Denver people were telling us a lot of their delegates were not going to turn out. Well, they did. Here's what happened. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Mm-hmm. Out of these 3,500 delegates, whatever, there were about 3,000 turned out. So they got a higher turnout than expected. Bob got his people out. Second thing, 800 delegates were unidentified, not ID'd by the Riggleman campaign. Never answered the phone, could never get in touch with them. They were expecting 100 of those to show up, and they thought they would get 20% of them, okay? That's kind of what I heard after the fact from speaking to various people in the know, not in the campaign, but just in the know. 800 people didn't show, but 100 didn't either. 350 showed, right? Yeah. And so of the 350, they got nowhere near 20% of that. So the unaffiliated mystery Bob Good voters that Bob Good said he had that nobody could ID, almost half of them turned out, and they turned out for Bob, and he won in a landslide. That's what happened. As far as wearing Bob Good shirts or stuffing ballot boxes, I mean, how many ballots could they possibly stuff? So this thing is going nowhere. They can follow the lawsuits they want. They lost. They got beat. Kimberly, the whole thing is corrupt and rigged, but they got beat, and they rigged it. That's what they do. The only question now is the State Board of Elections on July 7th going to give Bob Good the extension and put his name on the ballot? And if they don't, the seat's gone. I mean, the seat will be gone. There's no Republican. Somebody would have to run as a write-in candidate. They will lose, and the seat's blue. If Bob Good does get on the ballot, he is an underdog. In a deep red district, Bob Good goes in an underdog because he has no money, nobody's heard of him, and his positions are extreme. And he got nominated with about 1,700 votes out of millions. 1,700.
Yep.
That's how they rig stuff. And you better watch yourself because they'll do the same thing to you.
I know.
And they'll
Yeah.
rig you
There's
out.
no candidate
And they'll
support.
rig
They
you
want
out
duds.
of a fair shot to be the nominee. They will rig you out. That's what they do.
want people
And now
that they control who are duds. That's all that they
that's
want.
what they do.
don't want
And
anyone
Chris
who
and Diana
outspoken
Shores
a good
are
candidate.
going to go around the state, and everybody's going to hire them to rig conventions because now they've rigged two in a row, and they've got 2 wins, and they've knocked out 2 powerful incumbents, one after the other. Chris Peace in New Kent blew him out with Scott Wyatt, rigged that in 2019. Now they turn around and knock out Denver Riggleman. I mean, if I want to run for office, all I got to do is call up Bonnie and Clyde, pay them, and I'm likely to be the nominee.
I actually like Diana as a person, so we're both homeschooling moms.
I mean, they're.
But,
I mean, I'm
there's
not.
a lot of-
Look, I
lot of things
respect.
going on
They
here that
have
could
a
happen.
right to run a business model that they have discovered that they can make money at by rigging conventions. I mean, every time I call them Bonnie and Clyde, I make the family more money. I'm a ATM machine for Chris and Diana Shores. They just push the button and money comes out. I don't begrudge them that.
How's the Republican Party ever going to take seats with these shenanigans?
Never.
Putting up candidates like this.
I
They're
tell you
not.
what, until we have a leader that can run it for chairman and say that they will stop this. But see, the problem is they could never win because they'll get beat by the conventioneers that are controlling the party in the 9th and the 5th and the all these districts. But I mean, Rich Anderson, I gave him 2 opportunities in 2 days to denounce this whole thing. He wouldn't do it. He's scared. Air Force, it's like you're an Air Force colonel. What are you afraid of? The 5th district? Like, what is wrong with you? And Jack Wilson, he's scared, nowhere to be found. And they got some other guy running. If you offered me $1,000 cash, I couldn't tell you his name. I don't care. So there's no leadership until somebody says, I'm going to run for chairman, and if I'm elected, all this is gone because I will get lawyers and I'll stop it all. And I don't care if we have to take a step backwards because if this continues, we have zero chance, Kimberly, of ever winning anything. And here's the thing. They will do it to you.
Oh, it's too late. There's no ladder to climb. It's already started. They've made up their mind who they want in that seat, and all the doors are completely shut. There's no leadership for any type of candidate orientation or phone meeting. There's no availability. And I even had the chair from Lunenburg basically say I shouldn't be running for that seat because the other guy, who's a dud, who's a puppet that they can control, the boring guy, that guy is who they want in because then they can press his buttons and control him.
Sure.
Yeah. They don't want someone who's actually going to help the community.
Right. So
they want someone they can
if
control.
it was a primary, you would probably
In a
win.
landslide.
You would win in a
Smoke 'em.
landslide. If it was a firehouse primary, you would win. But what they're going to do is make it a convention, rigged a convention on behalf of the other guy who's going to hire Chris and Diana Shores, pay them a lot of money to rig it because that's what they do. They're professional riggers. It's not illegal. They should be proud of what they do, Bonnie and Clyde, because it makes the money, and they will rig you out of it.
And it's legal to have paid campaign staff
Yep.
to vote.
Perfectly
to
legal.
decide how this goes down. And there's nothing that you can do about it. There's no appeal. There's nothing that you can do because everybody's in the same boat. Well, that's a rule, so we're not going to do anything about that. We're just going to allow corruption.
Yep.
And we're going to destroy our party with candidates that are no good, that are never, ever going to be voted in.
Yep. Hank in VA says, maybe the Shores are really Democratic operatives. Maybe the whole Inept Republican Party in Virginia is a Democrat operation. Even if the Democrats tried to run this thing and be this inept, it's impossible. It's too hard. It would be too hard to do. It's like the movie The Producers. Remember that? Okay, this play has to fail. We got to hire the worst producer, worst director, worst actors, and get the worst script and get the worst play. And then it succeeded, and they're like, where do we go right? This is so inept. There's no leadership. It's a complete joke. Nobody steps in. Everybody's afraid. And so as far as Hank in Richmond, no, Chris and Diana Shores believe in their mission. They're good people. They're very right-wing. That's what they believe. But they're destroying the party.
Who is going to stand up? Is anyone going to stand up? No, everybody's going to fall in line and
I don't know,
now
you.
follow Bob.
You.
Yeah, I'm standing up.
You.
I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous.
You know
I've already
what? You know
had
what?
It, out
It
with the
starts,
Lindenberg
Kimberly,
chair.
it starts with one person.
There you
One
go.
person starts it, and you're the one that's starting it. I got Sean Kenney up next. Hopefully he'll be the second person, but Kimberly Lowe, you hang in there. John
Thank
Fredericks
you.
Radio Network.